There are things we hear that we never forget. Now imagine you, a millionaire, successful, with the world at your feet, and a fragile little girl, big eyes, soft voice, looks you deep in the eyes and says, "I just wanted to walk." That's exactly what he heard, and right then, something inside him broke. If you're someone who loves a story that tugs at the heart, go ahead and like and subscribe, because what this man did next, my friend, no one, absolutely no one, could have seen it coming. It was a clear afternoon, one of those that feels too quiet, and when the world seems too calm, it's time to be suspicious, because silence sometimes is just the breath before chaos. Dr. Alcides' mansion was known throughout the city, not for its beauty, but for its emptiness. A castle without a soul, built of marble, gold, and loneliness. Inside, the old millionaire walked with slow steps and an even slower soul. Widowed for 5 years, no children, no laughter, no hugs, just contracts, lawyers, and an old dog named Socrates. But that day, a charity event forced him out of hiding. Some Lucas Foundation, a children's hospital. He was going to deliver a check. That's it, just another name on a donor's plaque. Another fake smile for the local paper. But there was a little girl in the physiotherapy room. Tiny face, hair tied with a blue ribbon, hands trembling with effort. "She's trying to stand up by herself," a nurse whispered. The old man pretended not to care, turned his face away, looked elsewhere, but her voice cut through his soul. "I just wanted to walk, so I could run to the gate when my dad calls me." It was like time stopped. Alcides froze, his gaze locked, and a stubborn hidden tear formed, not in his eye, in his past, because what no one knew is that this man once had a daughter, and she also wore a blue ribbon in her hair. They say the world of the rich is made of numbers, but sometimes a child's whisper shatters any fortune. Dr. Alcides left the physio wing in silence, the check still folded in his hand. He didn't hand it over, didn't pose for a photo, didn't want coffee or thanks. Got in the car and said only one thing to the driver: drive slowly. The ride back felt longer than usual. The trees seemed to whisper stories he didn't want to remember, and that girl's blue ribbon was still stuck in his mind. Arriving at the mansion, he dropped his coat on the floor, something he never did, climbed the stairs in silence without turning on the lights, went to a room that hadn't been opened in years. It was his daughter's room, Julia, still with lilac walls, the unicorn lamp still on the dresser, and the little rocking chair that never rocked again. He stood there, still, time leaking through his eyes, and his mind trying not to remember what he had buried. "I just wanted to walk," he repeated softly. The phrase echoed in his head. It wasn't just a child with struggles, it was a mirror, a small, fragile mirror reflecting what he had lost or abandoned. The next day, he did something no one expected. He called the hospital, asked to speak with the children's wing coordinator, and got straight to the point. "That girl with the blue ribbon. I want to know her name." The woman on the other end hesitated. "Sir, we can't disclose." "Listen here, my dear," he cut in, his voice hoarse and firm. "I'm just an old fool trying to fix something. Help me help." After a long silence came the reply. "Her name is Manuela. She's 8 years old and has a rare degenerative disease. Her father abandoned the family when she lost movement. Her mother works as a janitor at the hospital just to stay close to her daughter." The coordinator's voice faltered. "She doesn't have much time, Dr. Alcides." It hit him like a hammer to the chest. The blue ribbon, the wheelchair, the wish to run to the gate, and the father's abandonment. It all had a name now. Manuela. He hung up with a trembling hand, went to the window, looked at the grey sky, and whispered, "What kind of man was I?" But what he'd do next, no one could have imagined. Because when an old man decides to settle his debts with the past, the present trembles. That night was long. The mansion echoed with nothing but his dragging footsteps on wooden floors. He walked back and forth, searching for something, but it wasn't an object, it was meaning. He opened the desk drawer. There were the old estate papers, stocks, corporate contracts, and among them a folder he hadn't touched in 15 years. Written in pen, Julia Alcides, private. Inside, photos of his daughter, her in uniform, smiling without her front teeth, her in her mother's arms, the blue ribbon slipping from her hair, and lastly, a faded medical report, Guillain-Barré syndrome, rapid progression, respiratory failure. Dr. Alcides sat with the papers on his lap and broke down, cried like a child, cried like someone who couldn't forgive himself. The next day, no one understood a thing. Early in the morning, the old man showed up at the children's hospital in a simple suit, no security, no press, no show. Knocked on the administration's door and said, "I want to volunteer." The director, a middle-aged woman, adjusted her glasses, confused. "Excuse me, you said volunteer?" "That's right. An old man like me still knows how to tell stories and make origami if needed." "But you're Dr. Alcides, the owner of Alcides Incorporadora. And what's that good for?" "My daughter died thinking I was a stranger. Maybe some child will find me useful." Silence. That same day, he was introduced to the children in the pediatric wing, and there she was, Manuela, in her wheelchair, hair tied with a blue ribbon, and a gaze that mixed pain and hope. He approached slowly. "Hey, young lady, remember me?" She widened her eyes, surprised. "The man with the check?" He chuckled. "Yeah, but today I'm just a storyteller." She blinked, unsure. "Do you know how to tell sad stories?" "I do, but I prefer the ones with happy endings, even if we have to make them up." The girl gave a crooked smile, and something strange was born there. A bond with no name, but strong. From that day on, Alcides went to the hospital every day. Brought books, finger puppets, did sock puppet shows, folded paper into birds. And slowly the girl smiled more and coughed less. But one thing still bothered him. "Why is she still in the wheelchair?" The physical therapist answered carefully. "The treatment is expensive, sir. The family can't afford it. And even with help, it's unlikely she'll walk again." "Unlikely doesn't mean impossible, right?" The woman hesitated. "No, sir, but it would be unthinkable." He stayed quiet. But his eyes lit up differently, because there the plan was born, not a plan of money, but of faith. The old millionaire was going to do the unthinkable. He was going to try to walk with a child's legs. There are things we bury so deep, we start to believe we've forgotten them, but all it takes is a scent, a song, or a smile that looks too much like another, and the past comes crashing down like an avalanche. Dr. Alcides decided he'd do more than tell stories. He wanted to rebuild that little girl's life, but first he had to rebuild his own. On the third day of visiting, he brought a notebook covered in old, faded floral cloth. It was worn, faded, but precious. It had belonged to Julia, the daughter he could never save. He sat beside Manuela's bed and said, "Want to write a book with me?" The girl's eyes widened. "But I don't really know how to write." "That's okay. You talk, I'll write. Let's tell your story, exactly how you want it told." She stayed quiet for a moment, then whispered, "Okay, but promise you'll write it till the end." He held her tiny hand, delicate like porcelain. "I promise, even if it hurts." And so they began. Day by day, page by page, Manuela told her dreams, her fears, memories of when she still ran through the backyard. And Alcides wrote, with tears in his eyes, but steady. In her voice, he found what he had lost. In her smile, he found what he never knew he needed. But the world doesn't forgive those who try to be happy too late. One day, a humble woman entered the room. It was Manuela's mother. Simple clothes, hair in a rushed bun, eyes sunken from exhaustion. She looked Alcides up and down, suspicious. "You're the famous doctor, aren't you?" He stood up. "Not anymore, now I'm just Alcides." She crossed her arms. "And why so much interest in my daughter?" The silence was heavy for a moment. He replied firmly, "Because she reminded me of someone I lost, and because I didn't know how to be a father." The woman stared at him, her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. "Manuela doesn't need pity. I know. She needs possibility, and that's what I came to offer." That night, Alcides made a different kind of visit. He went to the old warehouse of his construction company, dug through boxes, folders, blueprints, until he found what he was looking for, an abandoned project, an idea that never made it past paper, a children's rehabilitation school clinic, free, with assistive technology and psychological support. At the time, his partners had laughed at the proposal. No profit, Alcides. Why help those who can't pay? But now he laughed inside, because the kind of world that doesn't profit in dollars can overflow in meaning. He returned home with burning eyes, called the company's old engineer. Remember that clinic project? I do. Why? We're building it. What about the partners? I'm the only partner now. Alcides, it'll cost a fortune, and not doing it would cost me my soul. Silence on the other end. Tell me where to sign, said the engineer. But as Alcides revived the project that could give legs to hope, someone from the past drew near, with intentions that had no place in a clean heart. Because when the soul starts to heal, the world seems to sniff out the scar, and there's always someone ready to poke where it still hurts. 2 days after construction began, Alcides arrived at the hospital holding an envelope. Inside were documents, approved plans, released budget, signed permits, all in the name of a new project, Manuela Institute for Child Rehabilitation. But at the front desk, he found the girl's mother, nervous, crying. "He's back," she said, trembling. "Who?" "Manuela's father." Alcides felt his body go cold. In the coordination room, a scruffy man in a worn leather jacket was waiting, arms crossed, arrogant gaze, holding a folder of documents. "And you are?" "Marcos, the girl's biological father. I came to get my daughter." The words hit the old man like a gut punch. "After how long?" 3 years. "So what? I've got rights." Alcides held himself back, but his blood boiled. "And why now?" "I saw a news article, just a small blurb, but it said, 'Millionaire donates fortune to girl with rare disease.' Too much of a coincidence, huh?" The coordinator interrupted. "Mr. Marcos, custody is with the mother, and Ms. Anna made it very clear she doesn't authorize your presence." "I'll take it to court," the man shouted, slamming the table. "That girl's my daughter, and if this old man's playing the hero, I want to know what he wants in return." Alcides stood up slowly. "I want nothing, and that's exactly why you don't understand." Marcos laughed mockingly. "Come on, old man with that guilty face. Must have killed someone and now wants to be a saint." The coordinator asked him to leave, but he left a threat. "We'll meet in court," and left a trail of fear and tension behind. Alcides sank into a chair, exhausted. This will shake the girl up, set everything back. "And what if he wins custody?" asked the coordinator. "He won't." "How can you be so sure?" The old man looked to the ceiling as if talking to an old god. "Because I already lost a daughter, and I won't lose another, even if she's not mine." That night, Manuela's mother, Anna, appeared at the mansion for the first time. "I never asked for anything, not money, not favors, but now I need help. You'll have it, whatever it takes." "Can he really take custody?" "He can try, but I'll hire the best lawyers in the country." She held his hand. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I recognize her eyes. They're the same eyes my daughter had when she still believed her father would come home, and this time there would be no abandonment." But that so-called biological father wasn't acting alone. There was more behind his return, more than a selfish man. There was a debt, a threat, and a truth ready to explode. Some truths, when kept too long, turn into disease, but there comes a time when the heart can't take it anymore, and the soul cries for help. Marcos's name, Manuela's alleged father, reappeared in court records that same month, but not because of custody. It was for bank fraud, ties to loan sharks, and material abandonment of a dependent. Alcides' lawyers uncovered his file in less than 2 days. The man's past was dirty, full of holes and threats. But what no one expected was what came next. On a rainy night, Anna knocked on the mansion's door, soaked, shaking. "I need to speak with you now." Alcides motioned for her to come in. Prepared tea. Let silence handle the introduction. Then she dropped the truth. You need to know what I've been hiding. He froze. Hiding what? She took a deep breath, her eyes full of tears. Marcos didn't leave because of Manuela's illness. He left because he thought she wasn't his daughter. The silence that followed was heavy, thick, almost touchable. And is she? Alcides asked, voice low. I don't know. I never did a DNA test. I had a short affair. Nothing serious. Right around the time she was conceived. But Marcos found out. And instead of facing it, he ran. She tried to hold back the tears, failed. And now he wants back in, not for love, but because he knows you're rich. He wants to use that in court. The old man took a deep breath. And if she's not his, that changes everything. It does. But it would destroy her. She still hopes her father will get better, that he'll one day walk her to the school gate. If she finds out, it could break her. Alcides stared at the fireplace, the flames dancing slowly. And what if she's mine? Anna's eyes widened. What? What if life is giving me back what it once took? She understood, but didn't answer. The following week, Marcos filed a claim for paternity recognition and custody, but was caught off guard. The judge required a DNA test before any proceedings. Marcos protested, yelled, threatened to go public, but he had no choice. He had to comply. And during that waiting period, something happened. Manuela, unaware of it all, had started to walk, slowly, with crutches, with support, with pain. But she walked. A video of her taking 3 steps in the clinic's hallway went viral. Thousands were moved, and her face became a symbol. Meanwhile, Alcides waited for the test results, alone, sitting in his late daughter's old room, holding Manuela's blue ribbon in his hand. And there, looking at Julia's old photo, he whispered, "If she really is my granddaughter, I swear I won't mess it up this time." But the envelope that arrived the next day carried a revelation no one saw coming. They say paper has no heart, but sometimes it holds an entire world in one sentence. The envelope came unannounced, simple, white, sealed. The lab stamp still damp from morning dew. Dr. Alcides just stared at it for a while. It felt heavy, as if it didn't carry paper, but fate. He sat at the library table, just him, the envelope, and the silence screaming around him. He opened it gently, pulled out the sheet, read it slowly. DNA test result. Probability of paternity for Marcos Azevedo in relation to minor Manuela Azevedo. 0.00%. Zero. Nothing. No biological link. Dr. Alcides closed his eyes. His breath caught. She wasn't the daughter of the man who claimed her. But the final line of the report hit like a hammer to the soul. Further investigation into other potential biological fathers is recommended. And in that moment, the old man knew, not with his mind, but with his heart. He picked up the phone, called a trusted private lab. "I need to run a DNA test. Urgently. My name is Alcides Moraes, and the child's name is Manuela." That night he didn't sleep, sat on the porch, the dog Socrates lying beside him, the wind rustling the dry leaves in the garden. What if it's true? What if she's my flesh and blood? What if life is giving me a second chance? 2 days later, he returned to the hospital with the result. This time, his hands trembled. The envelope looked identical, but its contents would change everything. DNA test result. Probability of paternity for Alcides Moraes in relation to minor Manuela Azevedo. 99.94%. The old man collapsed into the chair. My granddaughter. His eyes filled with tears, but not of sorrow. It was as if time had tied an invisible thread between the past and the present. As if Julia, his daughter, had left a part of herself behind, so he'd have at least one chance to make things right. He called Anna, Manuela's mother. She answered, worried. "Is something wrong?" "Yes, I found out. I'm a grandfather." Silence on the other end, then muffled sobbing. "I suspected, but I was never sure. Now you are." The next morning, Alcides arrived at the hospital looking like a new man. A fresh suit, a clean shave, but what stood out most was the light in his eyes. He sat with Manuela in the playroom. She was stacking colorful blocks with some difficulty. He asked, "May I tell you one more story?" She smiled. "Only if it has a happy ending." He took a deep breath, looked deep into her eyes. "Once upon a time, there was a stubborn old man, a blue ribbon, and a granddaughter he took far too long to recognize." She laughed. "Wait, that story sounds like me." He held her tiny hand. "It doesn't just sound like you, sweetheart, it is you." She frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" His voice cracked as he answered, "I'm your grandfather." Her eyes widened. "Really? Really? Look, here." He showed her the folded test result. She didn't even look at the paper. She just jumped into his lap, crutches still on the floor, and wrapped her arms around his neck, crying softly. And in that embrace, a whole lifetime was healed. But news spreads fast, and that man Marcos, he wasn't going to give up the game so easily. Some people lose, but can't accept defeat. They'd rather invent a filthy new truth than face a cracked mirror. On a Monday morning, Alcides was served legal papers. Marcos Azevedo was suing the Manuela Institute. Why? Emotional damages and unauthorized use of the minor's image. The world spun again, but this time not from emotion, from disgust. The old man's lawyer read the document carefully. "He claims you used his daughter's image for self-promotion, knowing you weren't her father. But the DNA test was done by your initiative, not by court order. He claims it could be fake. He's requesting a retest." "That's absurd." "It is. But legally he's playing dirty, and he might be able to delay everything." That same week, Marcos showed up at the hospital with a camera crew. He said he wanted to tell his side of the story. Faked tears. Tried to hug Manuela, who hid behind a nurse. The crew was turned away, but the damage was done. The internet started buzzing. Rich old man buys granddaughter to ease his guilt. Real father seeks justice. Who's the real victim here? Ana, Manuela's mother, broke down. "I should have told the truth sooner. He's going to destroy our peace." But Alcides wasn't shaken, at least not on the outside. Let him bark. Those who scream the loudest are usually sinking the fastest. But deep down, he knew this could threaten the entire project. That's when an idea struck. Simple, brilliant, and risky. He called his old press advisor, a retired journalist who owed more to truth than to fame. "I want to give an interview." "Exclusive?" "No, a press conference. I'll tell everything. No lies, no filters." "Are you sure?" "It's the only thing I'm sure of." Days later, journalists from all over the region gathered in the Institute's under-construction auditorium. The place where children would someday learn to walk again would now be the stage for a grandfather telling the truth. With the mic live, he began, "My name is Alcides Moraes. I'm 74 years old. I built a fortune out of concrete and guilt, and I have a granddaughter named Manuela." Cameras flashed. "Yes, she's my biological granddaughter, but even if she weren't, she'd still be mine. Her biological father abandoned her when she needed him most. Now he wants back in, not out of love, but out of pride. I've made many mistakes in my life. I ignored my daughter, lost my wife, and became a ghost of myself. But when I saw that little girl trying to walk, I saw the last chance life gave me to be a better man." Every word struck a chord. But what no one expected was for Manuela to walk in with her crutches and come up to him. "Grandpa, can I call you that now?" He knelt down slowly, hugged the girl in front of everyone, and said, voice trembling, "I'm not a good man, but this girl, she's good, and that's why she will walk, even if it's with the legs of my regret." Silence, then applause, tears, because truth, when spoken from the heart, can dismantle any rehearsed lie. But Marcos wouldn't accept defeat, and his next move would be even dirtier. Some people, when they realize they can't win, try to take everyone down with them. Marcos disappeared for a week after the press conference, but he wasn't quiet. He was digging his own grave. Under the cover of night, he sought out an old contact, a shady character named Miro, who sold fake test results, phony documents, even forged vaccine cards. I need a DNA test, one that says I'm the girl's father. That's a crime, Marcos. And since when do you have morals? Just sell me the paper and I'll give you 10 grand. The man hesitated, but money spoke louder. 2 days later, Marcos went public with a document in hand. Here's the proof. The hospital test was forged. I am Manuela's biological father. The story exploded online. Tabloids invited experts. Headlines flooded the media. Billionaire lies exposed. Truth or publicity stunt? Who's really telling the truth? The pressure grew. Alcides was summoned to court to present his original documents, but he didn't flinch, because when the truth is yours, it's the other side that feels fear. In court, he presented the tests, lab records, payment receipts, all authenticated, all legit. Marcos, on the other hand, was sweating. The judge, an older man with thick glasses and a slow voice, read the documents for half an hour, then looked up. Mr. Marcos Azevedo, you present here a DNA test issued by a facility called Vida and Testes Clinic. This clinic was shut down 3 months ago for fraud. Were you aware? Marcos stuttered. No, someone gave me. I thought it was valid. Also, the signature of the certifying doctor belongs to a man who died in 2019. The courtroom fell silent as the judge concluded, this is a crime, forgery, attempted fraud, procedural bad faith. Alcides' lawyer simply bowed his head, satisfied. Marcos was taken out in handcuffs, but the trauma left its mark. That night, Manuela woke up from a nightmare, screaming, terrified. He's coming to take me, Grandpa. He's coming. Alcides rushed to her hospital bed, knelt beside it. He'll never touch you again, sweetheart. Never. She cried, but held his hand tightly. Promise? I promise. And when I promise, I keep it. The next morning, Alcides did something only people with a broken heart know how to do. He gave. He announced that the Manuela Institute would expand to 4 states, all completely free, all with psychological support for children who had been abandoned. If some people use love as blackmail, then we'll use pain as a seed. The impact was enormous. Hearts opened across the country, donations poured in from everywhere, and Manuela for the first time was called the girl who symbolizes hope. But despite the victory, the old man's soul still had a wound, and it had a name, Julia. His daughter, because every story that closes must first face what was left unanswered. There are things we leave for later, and that later never comes. But one day, the heart decides it's time, and then silence becomes a bridge. It was on a cloudy afternoon, one of those with a humid breeze, the smell of wet earth, and memories that didn't ask to return. Dr. Alcides put on an old black suit, drove alone to São Damião Cemetery, stopped at the avenue lined with flowering trees, walked slowly, holding a bouquet of white lilies. The headstone was there, as it always had been, only he wasn't. Julia Moraes, 1991 to 2008, loved but not heard, cherished but not understood. He knelt with difficulty, placed the flowers gently on the cold stone, and for a moment said nothing, then whispered, I waited too long, and there's no excuse. I was busy being a businessman, winning awards, building towers, but I couldn't hold your hand when you needed me most. The wind blew harder. Leaves swirled around him. The old man took a deep breath. I met a little girl. She smiles like you, clings to her crutches like you clung to the stories I never read, and she is your daughter. His eyes welled up. Yes, my little one, life gave me a granddaughter, in the most crooked, beautiful, and unexpected way. And today, I'm here to tell you I'm trying. I'm trying to become the man you would have been proud of, even if it's late, even if I'm patched together. He pressed his forehead to the headstone. And you know what else? She's going to walk, even if she walks to the rhythm of my regret. He stayed there for nearly an hour, wrapped in silence, as if the world paused just to allow that wordless reunion. On his way home, he stopped at a stationery store, bought a picture frame, placed inside it an old photo of Julia with her blue ribbon, and next to it, a recent one of Manuela, smiling with her crutches. Back at the mansion, he hung it in the living room. Below it, he wrote on a wooden plaque, "They walk with me." The following week, Manuela was cleared to take her first unaided steps. The doctors were in shock. The physical therapist cried quietly in the hallway, and Manuela laughed. She walked like someone dancing, like someone floating between pain and victory. Dr. Alcides waited at the other end of the hall, arms open. She reached him, jumped into his arms, and whispered in his ear, "Grandpa, now I can run to the gate." He cried and replied, "And I'm here, waiting for you, always." But destiny still had cards up its sleeve, because news from overseas was about to arrive, and with it, a face Alcides thought he'd never see again. There are things we bury thinking they're dead, but the past, my child, sometimes takes a vacation, not a retirement. It was a peaceful morning at the mansion. Manuela was having breakfast, warm milk and cheese bread. Alcides read the newspaper, glasses slipping down his nose. Then the intercom rang. "International delivery for Mr. Alcides Moraes." The old man was surprised. He hadn't ordered anything in months. He signed the receipt and received a thick envelope, sealed in red from a Geneva notary. He sat slowly, read the sender. "De Villeneuve Foundation, International Succession Division." He frowned, opened the envelope carefully. Inside, a typed formal letter read, "Mr. Alcides Moraes, we inform you that Miss Isabelle de Villeneuve, a Swiss citizen who resided in Brazil from 2005 to 2008, has recently passed away, leaving in her will the following clause. In the event of my death with no direct heirs, I request that my estate be granted to the biological father of my unrecognized daughter, Mr. Alcides Moraes, or to the child if located." The old man's hands shook. Isabelle. The name hit his chest like a stone. It was her, the mysterious Frenchwoman. The brief affair he chose to erase from memory. Back then, his wife was still alive. He never heard from her again. Never knew if she returned to Europe or stayed in Brazil. But now the past was returning, not as memory, but as consequence. He kept reading. At the end of the letter, "We will be in contact to collect documentation and verify the identity of the minor heir, currently known as Manuela Azevedo Moraes." The old man let go of the letter and sat in stunned silence. His heart pounded like a drum. The puzzle pieces arranged themselves. My God, Manuela's mother. "Isn't Anna?" he cried, not from sadness, but confusion, doubt, guilt. He called Anna to the mansion that very same day. "I need you to tell me the truth, all of it." She arrived tense, sat across from him. No coffee, no small talk. "Isabelle was my cousin. When she discovered the pregnancy, it was a scandal in the family. She returned to France. But months later, she called me saying she would leave the child with me, said she couldn't raise her, that she was sick, and that the father would never know." The silence that followed was so heavy that even the wall clock seemed to shout each second. "And you raised her as your daughter, as my own, because she is, even if not born from me. And why didn't you ever tell me? Because when I saw you getting closer, I realized she had more to gain than to lose. And because I thought you'd suffered enough already from losing your Julia." Alcides lowered his head, exhausted, but also relieved. "So that's it. She's my daughter, and my granddaughter at the same time." Time had tied itself in a knot, the story a full circle. That night, Alcides looked up at the starry sky and whispered, "Isabelle, wherever you are, I'm trying. I'm learning how to love the right way. But the fortune coming from abroad would bring not only comfort, but a new threat. Because wherever there's inheritance, there are people sniffing for opportunity, and the worst was yet to come." The news of Isabelle's inheritance from Switzerland dropped like a silent bomb. Few people knew, but those who did were already making moves. The amount was large, very large, numbered accounts, properties in Europe, investments in green technology, and over 2 million euros in liquid assets. And now all of that, in the name of a little girl who, until recently, didn't even know her full last name, Manuela Moraes, the girl who symbolized hope, now a millionaire by blood right. And where fortune is born, interest takes root. That same week, Alcides received a strange email. Subject: about Manuela's inheritance. Sender: unknown. If you really care about the girl, keep her away from Europe. There are more people interested in that money than you can imagine. The old man froze. Immediately forwarded it to his lawyer. Investigators traced the origin. Masked server, no trail, professional. That same day, Anna received a call from an international number. Mrs. Anna, this is from the Mavillon office, Geneva. We are proposing international guardianship for the minor Manuela Moraes, as her estate is based abroad. The child must travel for legal proceedings. But she can barely walk. And she's in treatment. Precisely. In Switzerland, we have specialized clinics. All expenses will be covered. It's what's best for her. Anna hung up, trembling. She told Alcides everything. And he wasted no time. He called an ambassador he'd known since his construction days, hired Swiss attorneys, filed for asset protection, strengthened Manuela's travel documents. But rumors were already spreading. At the gates of the institute, curious visitors began to appear. People with folders, claiming to be financial consultants, asset managers, or distant relatives of the late Isabel. The old man ordered increased security. But the worst part was when Manuela asked, "Grandpa, why are there so many strange people outside?" He sighed deeply. "Because sometimes the world confuses sparkle with worth. But you, my girl, you shine even without trying." She smiled, but fear had already planted its seed. And then the unexpected happened. A French lawyer, refined in appearance with perfectly grey hair, appeared with a document in hand. Her name, Madame Lemoine. "I come on behalf of Isabel's sister. She demands custody of the child as her closest recognized European relative." Alcides raised his eyes, slowly. "That woman has never laid eyes on the girl. Where was she when the child needed milk and physical therapy? That will be decided by the court of Geneva." The old man took a deep breath. "Then tell her, if she wants my granddaughter, she'll have to walk through hell." The lawyer smiled. "Cold. Then prepare yourself, Monsieur Moraes, because hell tends to hire excellent lawyers." That night, Alcides did something he hadn't done in years. He sat on the edge of Manuela's bed. The girl slept, curled beneath her starry blanket. He held her tiny hand and made a promise in a low voice. "They're going to try to take you from me, but I will fight. Even if it's the last thing I do in this life, because real love, my child, is a trench. There are wars fought with weapons, but some wars are only won with memory, love, and the courage not to turn into stone." The following month was a race against time. Lawyers in 2 languages, documents translated, witnesses summoned. The Manuela Moraes case was already in Swiss newspapers, and Isabel's sister, a rich, cold, childless aristocrat, demanded full custody of the child. Her argument? The girl will receive elite education, advanced medical care, and grow up in an environment befitting her wealth, as if love could be measured in Persian rugs. Dr. Alcides saw it all with tired eyes, but a steadfast soul. They think money raises a child, but they forget it's on the living room floor, between one laugh and the next, where you learn how to live. With the help of Brazil's Public Defender's Office, Anna prepared to testify too. "I'm not her biological mother, but I raised her with love. I won't let them take her from us. And Manuela, well, she just kept drawing. In the notebook her grandfather gave her months ago, she doodled crooked trees, colorful houses, and one repeating scene, an old man in a suit holding hands with a little girl wearing a blue ribbon. Meanwhile, Alcides made a quiet decision. He called his construction company's engineer. "The São Paulo clinic. I want it to have a dormitory wing for orphaned children, so that if I'm not around one day, she'll have a real home. Are you thinking of... I'm not thinking about dying. I'm thinking about living with responsibility. The following week, he boarded a flight to Geneva with Anna and a stack of documents. Manuela stayed in Brazil, protected under court order. The hearing at the Swiss court was cold, formal, held in a marble room where words echoed louder than feelings. On Isabel's sister's side, 3 lawyers, a diplomat, and a nanny. On Alcides' side, just him, Anna, a translator, and a photo of Manuela on the front of their case file. When the judge gave him the floor, he asked, "Monsieur Moraes, why do you believe the minor should remain with you instead of her blood relative here in Europe?" He looked directly at the magistrate and answered calmly, "Because she doesn't need a castle. She needs a home, because she already lost a father, already lost the use of her legs, almost lost the right to dream. If she loses what we rebuilt now, she may never recover." And more, "That little girl taught me how to love. She healed me. She gave me a reason to wake up every morning. It may sound small to you, but it's everything to me." The judge paused, reviewed the documents, sighed. "We will issue our decision in 10 days. Back in Brazil, Alcides was different, quieter, more thoughtful. He spent nights reading to Manuela, watched her sleep, wrote everything in a blue notebook. "In case I'm not here tomorrow." On the 9th day the phone rang. It was the lawyer. "The ruling is out, and you won. Custody is yours. So is the inheritance." Silence. Then the sound of sobs. On the other end, the lawyer only heard, "Thank you for helping an old man not die in vain." Manuela heard the crying. She ran to him. "What happened, Grandpa?" He smiled, still soaked inside. "It's just that now, you're officially mine." She jumped into his lap. "But I already was, a long time ago. Life, my child, is like a river. Sometimes it runs calmly, sometimes it rages with rapids, but it never stops flowing. And for old Alcides and his granddaughter Manuela, that was just the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter written in pain, in joy, and above all, in love. The Manuela Institute, once just a forgotten blueprint gathering dust, had now become something living, breathing. Not just walls and machines, but laughter in the hallways, paint-streaked fingers in art class, and little footsteps, some steady, some wobbly, echoing like heartbeats through the corridors. Each room carried stories, stories of struggle, but also of unbelievable resilience. Manuela, now walking with increasing ease, had become more than a patient. She was hope incarnate. Every child who arrived looked to her and saw more than a girl with a blue ribbon. They saw what was possible. She played. She danced. She told jokes only kids understood. She was finally just a child. And Alcides, he had changed completely. The man who once measured life in profits now counted smiles. He made it a point to greet every child by name. He never missed a storytelling session. He didn't just fund the institute, he lived inside it. Each day he'd sit on the porch of the main building and watch the kids through the glass windows. And sometimes, silently, he would whisper to himself, "This is my second chance, and I won't waste it." On one of those days, Manuela sat beside him, resting her chin on her hands. "Grandpa, when I grow up, can I work here too?" He smiled, adjusting his old glasses. "You don't need to wait, my girl. You already work here. Every time you smile at someone who just arrived scared, you're healing more than any medicine ever could." She grinned, proud, then paused. "You think Mama Isabel would be proud?" The question hit him in the chest, softly but deeply. He nodded, eyes misty. "She'd be proud, because she gave life to someone who now gives life to others." Manuela thought for a second. "Then maybe I'm like a bridge between her and you." He placed his hand gently on her head. "Not maybe, my little one. Definitely." That night, Alcides added a new quote to the plaque at the Institute's entrance. Beneath the name Instituto Manuela it now read, "Built from regrets, sustained by love, meant for futures." And while there would still be storms ahead, lawsuits, jealousy, and shadows trying to claw their way into the light, Alcides wasn't afraid, because now he had something more powerful than money, more precious than legacy. He had purpose. And every time Manuela ran, yes, ran, down the garden path toward him with her arms wide open, he knew the man he used to be died the moment he heard her say, "I just wanted to walk." And from that death, a better man was born. The kind of man who, when the final chapter comes, doesn't close his book with regret, but with gratitude. And if you're still here, listening to this whole tale, I ask only one thing: share it. Because maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to know that the impossible is only impossible until it isn't, and that it's never too late to start again. Until next time, from your friend, Grandpa Rich.